My name is Casper. I run my family's funeral home. It was passed down to me by my dad, and to him by his dad before that. As far back as I know, this has always been our work. Some families pass down land or receipts or businesses with friendly storefronts. We pass down the knowledge on how to care for dead bodies. I was named after a movie, actually. Casper the Friendly Ghost. Came out in 1995. My parents watched it in cinema on their first date. I like my name. Always have. It fits my job, sure, but more than that, it fits the way my parents saw the world. They believed you could be gentle and still do serious work. They believed kindness didn't cancel out responsibility. And in a world where work like ours exists, you need a high level of both. Growing up, I always knew who I was going to be. Some people call that limiting. I never did. There was a certain peace in it. I never had to guess. I never had to panic about the future. I watched my dad work. I watched him speak to families when they were tired and sore from crying. I watched how he moved through the building like it was an extension of his body. He knew which doors stuck in the summer and which lights flickered when it rained. He showed me how to carry weight without letting it crush you. I couldn't want for anything when it came to my parents. They were present, steady, and inspiring in the way heroes were in books. They didn't sugarcoat things, but they didn't scare me either. Death was never a monster in our house. It was just a fact. A serious one. One that deserved respect. That doesn't mean the job is easy. Funeral homes run on strange hours. Most of my work happens at night or early in the morning, when the rest of the world is asleep or just starting their day. I smell like cleaning bleach more often than I'd like. Gets into your clothes, your hands, your hair. You can shower and still catch a trace of it later, like it's reminding you where you've been. Socializing is hard when your schedule doesn't line up with anyone else's. Friends learn not to ask what I'm doing on weekends. Dating is awkward until you get past the part where I explain what I do for a living. Still, makes for interesting icebreakers. You can tell a lot about someone by how they react when you say you run a funeral home. Some people get quiet. Some get nervous. Some get curious, and I don't mind any of it. I both love and hate this work. I love the structure. I love knowing what's expected of me. I love that there's a right way to do things and that doing them well matters. I love that families trust me on some of the hardest days of their lives. I hate the isolation. I hate how the hours blur together. I hate that some days follow me home whether I want them to or not. But this is my place. It's mine to steward. The building itself has been here longer than I have. Longer than my dad was when he first took over. Every generation added something small. A room, a hallway. A system that worked better than the last. Nothing flashy. Just improvements meant to keep things running smoothly. We took care of the dead, and we took care of the space where they stayed with us for a little while. One day this will all belong to someone else. That's how it works. Before that happens, there are things that need to be said. Rules that need to be understood. And if you're going to take my place someday, it's best you know them. But more on that later. First things first, you should know about the place you want to work for, and you should know more about Ruby, most of all. Ruby is our family's hellhound. You'll see her before you see anything else in this building. She usually gets up before me and waits near the hallway or on the front steps. She's quiet in the mornings, more alert at night. Most people think she's just a mutt. She has a short coat and a solid build. Her face is expressive. She blinks like she's listening. When she sits, she leans into one side like it's a habit. She looks friendly, and for the most part she is. But she has horns. They curl back against her head, small and dark. When people notice them, I say it's a birth defect, some kind of bone growth. Most people don't know enough about dogs to argue. They make a few surprised noises, maybe ask what breed she is, then move on. I don't give a breed. I just call her a mix. That's not a lie, right? She was assigned here. though I don't know by who or how long ago her line has been watching this place. I didn't adopt her. She found me when I took over the building. My father never talked about her, but when he died and I returned home full time, she was already waiting inside. It didn't take long for her to follow me through every part of the day. Hellhounds are supposed to guard the gates of the underworld. That's their job. I'm not entirely sure what Ruby did before she ended up here, but someone must have decided that this place qualified. Technically speaking, I work for the dead. I prepare them, watch over them, keep them safe until their families are ready to say goodbye. That seems to count. She doesn't speak, but she understands everything. She opens doors on her own, waits beside the dead like she's standing watch, and won't eat unless I do. I trust her more than anyone. This funeral home has been in my family for generations. It started as a small local business and grew over time. Families knew they could come here for care and respect. The rules were simple. We handled the body and prepared the services. We made sure every step between death and burial was done properly. But over the years, something changed. Death leaves traces. When you work in a space that constantly holds grief, memory, and the physical body itself, that energy, it builds. It's not haunted in the traditional sense. You won't find a ghost floating through the halls or an old figure waiting at the top of the stairs. But the energy, it is dense. Strange things happen here, and the rules started out as precautions to keep the workers safe. Those rules are the same ones I'm going to pass on to you. I won't ask why you took the job ad. We all have our secrets. That part doesn't matter to me. What matters is that you learn how to stay alive while you're in this building, and how to keep everything else where it belongs. We don't have a manual, but we do have our stories. Each one holds a rule, and each rule has a reason. I'll give you both. You'll need to remember them. All of them. The house doesn't forgive mistakes, so pay attention. There's a lot we're going to cover, but we'll start with the basics. This first rule is simple. Rule 1. Keep the lights on. Every room in the building must be lit at all times. Hallways, prep rooms, bathrooms, storage areas, everywhere. Every single space. Even the ones you're not using. Especially the ones you're not using. You'll find the master switches near the front desk and in the basement utility panel. Both are labeled. The lights are hooked up to the main grid, but there's a separate generator in the tool shed behind the building. That generator is for the mortuary only. It's wired to cover every room. If the main power cuts out, it should kick back on automatically. If it doesn't, you'll have to go outside and start it manually. There's a crank panel on the left side and a red fuel drum next to it. The instructions are posted inside the shed door. Refill it weekly. Keep a funnel nearby. The reason for this rule is simple. Your main job at the mortuary is to clean and prepare the dead. That's what everyone expects. Families come in, make their arrangements, and leave. You wash the body, dress it, set it out for visitation, and eventually get it to burial or cremation. It's careful, detailed work, and people think that's all there is to it. But that's not the whole job. What nobody explains until you get here is that you're also in charge of identifying and responding to anomalies. Most people never see one, but you will. We call it rot. Rot isn't decomposition. Rot is a spiritual condition. It shows up on the body in ways that aren't natural. Sometimes it looks like burns. Sometimes it's lesions that don't follow any medical pattern. The skin might be intact, but the structure underneath will feel soft or hollow. The mouth might hang open wider than it should. The teeth might be too long. Sometimes the limbs bend in ways they shouldn't. There's a manual in the office that lists every anomaly we know how to recognize. The important thing to know now is that rot is what's left behind when a demon starts the process of possession, but doesn't finish. The person died before the possession was complete, which means the body is left in a kind of halfway state. And that halfway state is dangerous. It's your responsibility to detect it. If you spot rot, you log it immediately in the red ledger. There's one on the prep table and a backup copy on the shelf near the embalming cabinet. You don't use the computer for that. We keep digital records for everything else, but anomalies go on paper. That book gets scanned and mailed once a week to a contact in Rome. Once you log it, you have to contain it. That's where the rituals come in. For minor cases, you'll perform a cleansing on site. There's a set of supplies in the embalming drawer labeled clearance: salt, oil, a candle, and a script. You'll memorize the steps. It takes 15 minutes if done correctly. For moderate cases, you add the prayer. That one's longer. You'll learn it in sections, and when in doubt, do both. For anything beyond that, if the signs are extreme, if the rot is spreading, or if the body moves, you call the number on the wall behind the desk. It rings through to a Vatican line. Someone will pick up, and you'll read them the information word for word. Don't try to explain, just say what you see. They'll send someone if it's serious. You'll stay with the body until they arrive. That's the procedure. Now back to the lights. Demons don't show their hand directly. They're subtle, especially in this stage. They hide their marks, and the easiest way for them to stay hidden is through low light. If the room isn't bright enough, you'll miss the signs. You might overlook a bruise that isn't a bruise, or a joint that looks fine until you touch it. In full light, you have a chance of catching it early. If the lights flicker or dim, check the bulb first. Sometimes it's just that. But if you replace it and the new bulb also dims, you move the body to another room and relight the entire area. You don't continue work in a space where the lighting can't be stabilized. You don't finish dressing the body. You don't resume until the issue is resolved. A possessed body, even one that's already dead, can still function as a spiritual conduit. That means if the signs go undetected and the body is released to the family, there's a chance the possession completes itself in a new host. That host, well, it might be a grieving spouse, a child, a caretaker, anyone who makes contact during a vulnerable moment. It doesn't happen often, but once is enough. The mortuary is the final checkpoint. We're the last step before the body leaves controlled space. That's why containment matters. A case of rot that slips through here can affect an entire home, and if the family tries to bury it, the consequences are worse. You might not hear about it right away, but it'll come back to us. This is why the light stays on. The things hiding in the dark stay away from brightly lit places. You remember the so-called boogeyman we were scared of as kids? The way we'd ask our parents to look under the bed or in the dark of the closet. Yeah? Kids notice more than adults do when it comes to the other side. They see things, and they sense things that the naked eye can't see. But what the kids see are real, and they're always prowling around looking for an opportunity. Demons and monsters, they're opportunists at heart. That's what we call a breach. There's no recovery once a breach starts. If the rot spreads and isn't contained, this building will begin to change. I've only seen it happen once, and we had to seal off half the prep wing. That section's still closed. We don't use it anymore. This is where it starts, with the lights. So that's your first rule. You keep them on, always. Don't worry about the electric bill. The Vatican takes care of that. Once you've got the light sorted out, we move on to the next rule. Rule number 2. Follow protocols. This rule applies when things go wrong, and they will at some point. It's just the nature of the work. You'll be doing your job, thinking everything's going according to plan, and then something will shift. Sometimes the signs of rot appear gradually. The skin tightens, or the joints start to lock too early. Maybe the eyes don't close no matter how many times you try. Those cases are manageable. You follow the cleansing procedures, finish your work, and send the body out like normal. But sometimes it's more serious. If the body moves on its own, turns its head, opens its eyes, speaks in any way, you're dealing with an extreme case. At that point, the rot has advanced too far for simple cleansing. You follow the full procedure. No shortcuts. Start with salt. Always keep a jar in the prep room and another in the cooler. We use coarse salt, not fine grain. It holds energy better. If the body starts to animate in any way, you pour a full handful into its mouth. Don't worry about the teeth. Don't worry about the gums or the damage it might do. Just pour it in, close the jaw, and hold it shut with both hands. Next, do the same with the eyes. 1 pinch per eye. Pack it in firmly. The eyes don't need to be open. You can push the salt in through the eyelids if needed. The goal is to cut off access points. Possession requires entry. The mouth and eyes are the most direct. Once that's done, surround the body in a circle of salt. A full circle. Don't leave gaps. The floor should show a clear border around the table or stretcher. This step prevents the demon from reaching out. Even if there are other bodies in the room, this will block the spread. Demons can't possess the dead in full, but they can move through unprotected remains if the conditions are right. A circle of salt stops them from doing that. That's why it's important to move quickly, but carefully. Once the body is secured, check the hands. Turn each palm upward and inspect the skin between the base of the thumb and the wrist. Look for punctures. Sometimes they're clean. Other times they're ragged, like something tore its way through. If you see marks there, you're dealing with a second stage possession. Second stage is worse than basic rot. It means the demon has started mocking religious symbols, meant to strike fear and unease into the hearts of the workers handling the bodies. The body might start showing signs of mimicry, banging on doors, cupboards, or windows in patterns of 3, or making sounds that don't match the room. One of the most common is crying. If you hear a child crying and there's no child present, don't go looking for it. Don't open doors, don't check empty rooms. That sound is meant to draw you in. It's a lure. The best thing to do in that moment is confirm your surroundings, return to the body, and complete the next step of the protocol. Lock the body in containment. Each prep room has a metal container for secure storage. It's lined and reinforced. You'll find the key on a chain next to the light switch. Open the unit, place the body inside, and shut the door tight. The lock should catch on the first turn. Once it's sealed, salt the door, not just the handle. Line the threshold, top, bottom, and sides. When that's done, call the assigned priest. There's a contact list taped inside the main desk drawer. You'll find their names next to ours. They've been briefed on this location. They know the family name. They'll understand the situation without needing much detail. Just say, "This is a containment case. We've moved to second stage." Then give them the name of the deceased and the time of death. And stay on site until they arrive. When the priest begins the ritual, you remain in the room. You don't have to assist unless you're asked. You stand at the wall, say the prayers if you know them, and keep your hands in plain view. Your presence is what matters here.
Demons use isolation as a means to corner and unease their victims. Sometimes it helps the priest just to have more people in the room. Some exorcisms last 20 minutes. Some take hours. The priest will tell you when it's done. Once it is, the room will feel still again. Your lungs will expand, and it'll feel like you can take a deep breath. You'll help them prepare the body for final rites. If it's damaged, and it usually is, you'll assist in basic restoration. Close the wounds if you can, set the face, repack the eyes. If the family asks about the injuries, you offer a soft explanation. Use words like fragile tissue, late-stage swelling, or post-mortem tearing. We care more about the exorcism than the aesthetics of the dead. Remember, saving the soul comes first. Always. Don't let the fear of a bad viewing stop you from doing what's necessary. If a body begins to move, it is no longer stable. If it speaks, it is no longer safe. The sooner you act, the less likely the damage will spread. That's why we follow protocol. This is the part of the job nobody likes to talk about. You'll learn the difference between a natural death and something else, not by sight, but by how it feels to be in the room. That instinct takes time to build. Until then, stick to the procedures. When in doubt, go back to the steps. Salt, contain, call, stay. If you follow protocol, you'll be fine. Probably. And that's all you need to know about that. This brings us to the third rule. Rule number 3. Respect Ruby. I mean that exactly as it sounds. You don't treat her like a pet, or give her commands unless you're trained to. You don't feed her table scraps, or try to dress her up in holiday sweaters. No matter how cute and fluffy Ruby is, she's still a hellhound, and your future partner. She doesn't belong to us. She belongs to whoever breeds and trains hellhounds, and I don't know who that is. I've never met him. I've never asked. From what I understand, they don't report to the church, and they don't follow human systems. They work in a different hierarchy, one that's older and probably more precise. When a hellhound arrives, it's because someone sent it. When it stays, it's because it has work to do. In our case, Ruby was sent to protect the people who work here. Hellhounds are tasked with 2 things. First, they guide or retrieve the dead. Second, they protect the living from spiritual interference when the dead are involved. In our line of work, that makes Ruby essential. Her job is to keep you safe. She's your companion. Yes, she'll walk beside you. She'll rest her head on your knee when you're eating lunch. She'll sleep in the prep room if you're pulling an overnight shift. She's affectionate. But most of all, she's here to make sure you don't end up like the people you're working on. Ruby is deeply invested in you not dying. But more than that, in you not getting possessed by a demon. There are 3 stages of demonic possession. You'll need to know them. The first is oppression. That's when the demon targets something from the outside. They cause small, continuous distress, insomnia, irritability, feelings of worthlessness, shortness of breath, arguments that start for no reason, or accidents that keep happening at the worst times. The point is to wear the person down. Demons pick their targets based on stress. They don't go after happy people with stable lives. They look for grief, resentment, guilt, and fear. People who have experienced tragedy. People under pressure. People who are already close to the edge. That means us. Our work puts us at risk every day. We spend more time with the dead than the living. We keep odd hours. We clean bodies while the rest of the world is asleep. We see the results of pain, loss, and violence up close. Workers like us don't have a large support group or an active social life. That combination of stress and isolation makes us a prime target for the very things that we protect other people against. And that's where Ruby comes in. Just being near her helps. Her presence disrupts spiritual interference. It works like a barrier. You won't feel it directly, but if you pay attention, you'll notice that bad thoughts fade faster when she's close. Your focus sharpens. The building feels quieter. If you start to spiral, she'll nudge your leg or rest her chin on your arm. The second stage is obsession. This is where the demon focuses on the mind. It plants thoughts. It changes the way someone sees the world. It begins to infect the body from the inside out. That's when the rot starts. You already know what rot looks like on the dead. On the living, it's harder to spot. Sleep patterns change. Speech becomes erratic. The person isolates. They stop following routines. They don't remember things they used to know. You'll see it slowly. They'll start to ignore their duties. They'll say the lights don't matter. They'll avoid the prep room. They'll laugh at protocol. If you ever feel like that, stop what you're doing and find Ruby. She won't bark or growl or bite you. She'll just sit there and look at you. If she doesn't approach, you're already too far along. If she follows you, there's still time. Spend time with her. Follow her lead. The condition corrects itself in a few days to a few weeks, just as long as you hold on to your values, reasoning, and sanity. The third stage is possession. That's when the soul gives up and a demon takes over. You've already learned how to handle that when it happens to the dead. If it happens to the living, Ruby will not wait for you to act. She'll act on her own. And that's why it's so important to recognize the signs early. Ruby will warn you before anything appears to be wrong. She might sniff a body longer than usual. She might pace in a room that feels fine to you. She might grow still and stare at a space on the wall or behind a cabinet. She sees things we don't. She hears things we never will. And her sense of smell is better than any test we have. Dogs are naturally good at detecting illness. You ever see those documentaries where the dogs are trained to detect cancer through smell alone? Ruby's sense has been refined to pick up early signs of rot. She can identify it before it shows on the skin. If she won't let you approach a body, trust her. Don't second guess it. Mark the body for review and begin protocols. I have seen her wake up from a dead sleep because someone walked in with a body marked clean that wasn't. I have seen her pace the hallway for hours before we found a structural fault that let in something we didn't want inside. I have seen her sit beside a worker for a full night just because he was going through something hard, and that made him vulnerable. She chooses what she does. Your job is to respect that. Feed her when she's hungry, walk her before dark, keep her water clean. If she follows you into the cooler and lays down beside a table, pay attention. That's her marking something. She won't move until the issue is resolved. If she stands by the front door and won't come in, do not open it. If she howls, get to her. She won't always make noise. Most of the time she's quiet. She patrols the halls. She watches the doorways and circles the viewing rooms before each service. She keeps her distance when families are grieving, or lays beside the wall when you're doing prep work. You'll start to notice that you feel steadier when she's around. Maybe all dogs do that. At least I think so. Just don't ever forget what she really is. Rule 4. So by now you've seen what kind of work this is. The hours are strange, the routines are strict, the threats aren't always visible. Some of them don't even come from the outside, which brings us to the next rule. Rule number 4. Accept death as part of life. Most of all, as part of your life. This rule is different than the others. It's not about what to do when the lights go out or when a body moves. Or when Ruby sits in the hallway and refuses to budge. This one is about what you're agreeing to. Not just in the day-to-day, but in the long term. There's something you need to understand before you choose to stay here. Everyone who works in this building and chooses to remain will die on their 50th birthday. It's the agreement we've made with those above and below. I don't know who brokered the deal. It predates me, and it predates my father. But it's always been the same. If you take on this work, if you accept the full responsibility of protecting the living from demonic influence and guiding the dead safely across the threshold, then your time becomes limited. The human soul was not built to endure long-term exposure to rot. We can protect ourselves. We can cleanse the space. We can keep the energy contained and the rituals sharp. But every time you touch a body that's been marked, something passes through you, a little at a time. Even with Ruby's help, even with every prayer spoken and every protocol followed, something gets in. If we didn't have the agreement, we wouldn't die, not in the normal sense. Without it, we would change. Over time, we'd begin to take on the same qualities we try to stop in others. We would twist into something we were never meant to become. Rot doesn't just live in flesh. It lives in what's left. And over enough years, even the strongest mind will start to bend under it. The agreement prevents that. It gives us a peaceful, controlled ending. At 50 years old, to the day we pass. No suffering, no rot, no change. We go as ourselves, human, whole. You don't have to guess when it'll happen. You won't be surprised. You'll feel it in the weeks leading up to it. You'll finish your work, you'll say your goodbyes, and you'll go. My mother and father both passed that way. Same year, same age, only a few months apart. They knew the date their whole lives, and they never feared it. They worked here together until the very end. I remember the day my mom turned 50. She came down the stairs like it was any other morning. She brewed coffee. She read the mail. She gave me the warmest, tightest hug and told me to have a good day. I smiled and wished her happy birthday. Then she sat on the front porch with Ruby at her side. And that's where she passed, peacefully and finally at rest. My father followed not long after. They were buried side by side. The plot was already reserved, and the headstones were ready. Some people argue with it. Sure, they fight it. I've seen workers try to outrun it. They leave town, they change their names, but it finds them. That's part of the deal. Once you accept the work, you accept the end that comes with it. There's no escape. But there is peace in it. When you know the shape of your end, you stop fearing every corner. You stop wasting time. You do your work well. You care more, not less. You understand the cost, and you make your life matter while you have it. That's what I've chosen. I still have time. I'm not close to the deadline yet. But I won't live to old age. and I've been waking up with more grays in my hair than not. I won't retire in a cabin in the woods or move to a beach somewhere. I'll be buried in the same family plot as my parents. My headstone is already carved. It sits in the back of the storage room, wrapped in cloth. That's why I'm telling you this now. I want to give you a fair choice. If you choose to stay, you'll live a life of purpose. You'll know exactly what you're working toward. You'll understand every day that passes is part of something larger. You'll see things most people never will. You'll help families through the hardest moments of their lives. You'll keep this place stable. You'll fight back against the things that most people don't believe in or don't want to. You'll do good work. And when your time comes, you'll know it was worth it. But if that's not the life you want, I understand. You don't have to stay. You can walk away. You can forget all this. You can leave this town, change your number, never look back. If you want, you can live your life without any rules but your own. Maybe it'll be messy. Maybe it'll be uncertain, but it'll be yours. I won't stop you. But if you say yes, we keep going. We finish the training. We go over every rule. We run the rituals together. You'll do the prep work with me watching your hands. You'll say the words and I'll listen. You'll learn how to read the signs and time to act. You'll earn Ruby's trust. And when I go, this place will be yours. So that's the choice. I'll support whichever path you pick. But if you choose to stay, I need to hear you say it out loud. And once you do, we begin. I won't ask you today. Tomorrow, when the sun goes down, I'll ask your decision. But for now, there's work to do. And I think the body in room 4C just moved. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the video. Special thank you to all my patrons. If you'd like to become a supporter on Patreon, there's a link in the description. I hope you have a great night, and thanks for watching.